Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing a review of two poetry collections by Natalie Diaz. Natalie Diaz is a queer Latinx Indigenous poet. She is Mojave and is enrolled in the Gila River Indian tribe. Her two poetry collections, When My Brother Was an Aztec and Postcolonial Love Poem, are really, really good. I thought that both of these collections were so strong and had so much to offer. So I wanted to talk to you about what her poetry is like, why it appeals to me so much, and why you should pick these up. So first, let me talk about the writing style of Diaz's poetry. I think that one of the things that really attracts me to her poetry is just her skill in writing poetry. She uses so much imagery. The imagery is really, really strong. The metaphor and the analogies and just the colors that she uses. She often relates emotions and experiences to specific colors or to specific analogies to other things in life, and the way that imagery is woven throughout all of her poems really makes me feel immersed in what she is writing. Similarly, the way that she uses allusions is very impressive. I know that in some older poetry that I've read, such as by Edgar Allan Poe, allusions to classical myths and classical texts is really, really common, but I haven't seen that as much in more modern poetry. I see it a lot in Diaz's work, and I will say that this is one of the things that I see a lot of talent and ability in, but also it's one of the aspects that sometimes leaves me a little bit confused. I don't always understand what she is referring to. I don't always understand some of the points that she's making in her poetry because it's so full of allusions to literary works, to myths, to religion, to even pop culture. There's so much in there that I think makes it a very layered work where there's so much outside being pulled in, but it's also just so impressive and so fascinating to try to peel back those layers. So let me read you an excerpt from one of her poems to give you an example of how the imagery and allusions often works in her poetry. So I'm going to read part of From the Desire Field, which is in Postcolonial Love Poem. Let me call my anxiety desire, then. Let me call it a garden. Maybe this is what Lorca meant when he said, Verde, que te quiero verde. Because when the shade of night comes, I am a field of it, of any worry ready to flower in my chest. My mind in the dark is una bestia, unfocused, hot. And if not yoked to exhaustion beneath the hip and plow of my lover, then I am another night wandering the desire field, bewildered in its low green glow, belling the meadow between midnight and morning. Another thing that that excerpt also shows is the way that sapphic sensuality is really, really common in Diaz's work. She is queer, and a lot of the poems, especially in Postcolonial Love Poem, talk about her lover. They're very sensual. There's a lot about exploring her lover's body or her lover exploring her body. So there's so much in this about queer love, and I really, really enjoy that aspect. I do like love poems. I think the sensual aspect of that is also really fascinating, especially because there's just so much imagery involved. Some other themes that Diaz works into a lot of her poems really involve her identity. So one of these is her Latinx heritage. And so there is a ton about that Latinx heritage. There is a ton about the use of Spanish in here, about like Catholicism. There's a lot about just what it means to be Latinx. So much of that is worked into this. Similarly, there's a lot about her Indigenous heritage. Both poetry collections include things about this, but I really, really like some of her poems which are addressing things like the importance of water to her, the importance of water to her heritage, to her community, to her beliefs. There is quite a few poems in Postcolonial Love Poem which talk about how the water itself is part of her body and she is part of the water, and that connection is just really, really fascinating. One of the things that is also Fascinating but also heartbreaking is the exploration of some of the big issues that face many Indigenous communities. And in particular, in When My Brother Was an Aztec, there's an exploration of drug addiction. Her brother was very addicted to drugs, and that kind of tore her family apart. So the exploration not only of her heritage and beliefs, but also of modern issues that are facing her community is really strong in both of the collections. The title poem from When My Brother Was an Aztec, I think is especially good at showing that kind of exploration of her family and the issues that were faced. So I want to read an excerpt from this as well. When my brother was an Aztec, he lived in our basement and sacrificed my parents every morning. It was awful, unforgivable, but they kept coming back for more. They loved him, was all they could say. It started with him stumbling along La Avenida de los Muertos, my parents walking behind like effigies in a procession. He might burn to the ground at any moment. They didn't know what else to do except be there to pick him up when he died. They forgot who was dying, who was already dead. So I hope you can see from the excerpts that I've read from her poetry just the way that her poems have such emotion and such power to convey those feelings, those experiences, the way that she uses imagery and metaphor and analogies to really fully immerse you in what she was experiencing. I found both of these collections really, really fantastic. Again, some of the stuff does go over my head because I don't quite get all of the imagery or the illusions, but they are also what makes it so appealing to me. So if you are somebody who likes poetry, I really encourage you to give these a try and see if they work for you. I think they are absolutely fantastic. And if you want to read more queer Latinx Indigenous women, this is a great place to get some real connection to that experience and those emotions. If you guys have read either of these works, or if you have read anything else, any other poetry that you think I would like, go ahead, leave me a comment down below.